When it comes to planning launches, the number one question we get from potential clients is about pricing. What should we price it and how do we go about that? So, pricing can feel like the ultimate Goldilocks problem, right? If you set it too low, people may not take it very seriously or think it is valued, have any value essentially. Or if you price it too high, some people may not even give it a second thought to actually purchase it. It really is something that is a make or break for a launch.
Yep. So today we're going to be unpacking the biggest pricing mistakes that we see our clients make, along with some best practices and strategies that we think will work really well. So we're going to be talking about upsells, downsells, tiered offers, all things pricing to help you maximize your revenue without tricking anyone. And I'm going to be sharing a story of my client who added one $500 upsell to his offer, and it ended up generating over $75,000 in revenue.
So let's get into number one, which is the alignment of your buyer and your actual price point, because this I think is the biggest, I would say, point you need to focus on, right? If you're talking to small businesses, or even if you're talking to people who are starting a business and it's X amount of thousands of dollars, you're probably outpriced in that sense, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think about this a lot in my launch services offer because my top tier launch I'm launching for you service is very, very expensive to the point where a lot of smaller coaches who are running programs that maybe get 20 to 30 people in it, it wouldn't make sense for them because the revenue is not, they're not going to get any ROI because any profit they make is going to go to paying me to help them out. So it's really about creating your offers in a way that your ideal client can assess and maybe, and what I'm doing to kind of combat this is instead of having all in support offer, I want to do some sort of group coaching consultation launch offer where you'll get access to me, you'll get access to my brain, you'll get access to my strategies, but I won't be in your business physically doing it every day. So therefore it makes more sense for people that are in those beginning stages of scaling their launches to invest in.
Yeah, pricing is definitely less about what you think it's worth and more about how can you make it the product the right fit for your audience to be ready to invest in. I think that's really important. And I will add one tiny little rant in here about something that we see. And actually one of our shared clients did this where, you're constantly encouraged to increase your prices and make something a quote signature offer and kind of outprice yourself in the sense of you only need half of the amount of leads that you're calling in order to meet your revenue goal. When in reality, that's kind of the backwards way to look at things because it really did in this particular case, it really did completely derail a very successful launch because we had adjusted the price so much that, I mean, at this point, it's we can only say as advisors of a launch, hey, don't do that. This isn't going to make it super successful when somebody already kind of has their mind set to it. But it really can derail a very solid, validated product, validated audience by outpricing it and kind of really hoping on just meeting a revenue goal versus working backwards to scale a product sustainably.
Yep. Yep. So really pricing is something that you need to go into with intention. It needs to be aligned with you. It needs to be aligned with your capacity. It needs to be aligned with your clients. We talk about alignment a lot, but when you do this, you're going to see higher conversions and you're going to spend less time second guessing yourself when everything feels right to you. So next we want to talk about the ascension model or upsells, order bumps, downsells, kind of Rachel likes to talk a lot about average lifetime value of a client or average cart of a client. It is so much easier to get someone to spend money with you if they have already made the decision to invest with you once. So one of my favorite things to do right now is to add on upsells or order bumps inside of our launches. It really helps to give those people who may be looking for a little more support, a little more hand holding, an option to get the kind of support we need. So to be some specific about some of these that we've done before is one of my clients, the one that added the $500 VIP option on. All this included it was a coaching program, and all this included was additional calls where you could go on with a smaller group. This was kind of a large coaching cohort. You could go on a smaller group, get individual guidance. You got first access to some sort of things like that. But like people just love being VIPs. Like we call them a VIP, gave them like a special banner. And we ended up creating this additional $75,000 in revenue during his last launch. Now that was a $3 million launch, but you can add, I guess, take more money off the table every single launch. I have a client who's launching right now. She's doing a gut program. We have an additional add-on where they can add a GI map testing and interpretation on that. And it really works well for people that maybe wanted to work with her one-on-one, but can't afford the one-on-one option. So they have to go in group, but they still need a little bit more insight, like what is actually going on in their gut. And she's able to kind of provide that in a more accessible manner for them.
I just put my little email marketing hat on and say, this is where your email list shines because you have those automations of segmentation, tagging capabilities to kind of say, okay, this person's ready for this offer, this person's ready for this upsell. And it really creates this like very fluid sales system that's happening on the back end through automation that's designed to add maximum revenue. And like the goal isn't to get 10 people that are going to spend $500 with you. The goal is to get 10 people who are going to have a lifetime value of $5,000 plus over and over and over in a way that like you ask for the sale once in a manual way or through a launch of some sort, and your automation carried the weight and did the rest of it. Then you can say, okay, now it's time to get 10 more people through this one simple thing. I think that's where your email list can create so much value in a launch. You can have upsell bumps and like order bumps and things like that in your launches, but like you're not going to be launching every single month. So you have to have systems that take these people who are converting into your offer suite, non launches and launches, and really create that magic conversion happening without you having to like really lift a finger.
Yeah.
I mean, or you set it up.
Yeah. So
But
I kind of
yeah.
want to dig in before we move on to the next one, just a little bit about like what each of them are. And so that, because I think it's really important for people to think about like when to offer that upsell. So an order bump, if you've never heard of it before, is that's like when they're at the cart. Usually there's like a little thing at the bottom. It's like, do you want to add on this? And like you click that and it adds it. A lot of times it's like a template or another companion thing. Typically a lower price point, but we're actually doing this client's GI map testing as an order bump, and it's a $500 price bump. An upsell usually would happen like after they check out. It can either happen immediately after they check out, maybe they go to another page and you try to give them something for that's going to give them extra support, or maybe it's happening like later on down the line when that client would naturally be ready for it. So those are kind of the different, and then there's also like downsells. This maybe you went through a launch and it was an expensive high price point and nobody bought. So now you're going to give them like maybe just like the bite size
Yeah.
of that, or maybe just like the first module to help them get started. So I think that just goes back to align strategy, knowing your offer suite, knowing like what your customers need at what time to make sure that you're presenting these other offers at the right time. So I really want you to think about it. Like, where in your offer suite could you add on an upgrade that people would be interested in and take you up on it? And so that you can increase your customer value.
Yes. And if you want, I think we did an episode of customer lifetime value. I'll try to find it and link it below, but it really is one of those metrics that it had to have been in the KPI episode. It's one of those metrics that can really show where you're scaling and like growing your business in a way that is like sustainable, manageable, and like absolutely genius to focus on versus number of conversions.
Yep. Okay. So how do you feel, Rachel, about tiered offers?
I think they're necessary, right? Like, let's say you are going that big $5,000 signature offer. I do think tiered is what's going to create a lot of those sections, but I have seen them done in a very confusing way, which I tend to be like, what is all of this? Like, what do you mean I have this one and then what's the difference between this one? So I think is it really does depend on if you have your like positioning and messaging like locked in and people are very clear on what it is. And then the added like features and benefits are clearly distinguishable throughout the tiers. Cause I definitely, you can do it wrong. And I am typically, well, I would say usually overwhelmed when I see them in people's offer suite.
Yeah, I think you have to be really, really careful when you're using them not to give people analysis paralysis and that they
Yes.
are like really, really different. And the reason they're really, really different is wise. Like, so for example, like our quiz offer together, we have like just quiz strategy. That makes sense for somebody that may not be able to like do our full build. And then we will give you your strategy and build your entire quiz. Those are like really distinguishable. You'll be able to know which one you need, where you are based on your budget. But I think if we do have one that kind of gets a little more confusing, but we had to really like outline it where it's like if you have three quiz options and then if you have like five or more like places that your quiz is
Yeah.
leading to, like that's still tiered, but I think people can really be able to self identify like which one they should go into.
Totally. Yeah. I think it does create a little bit of analysis paralysis. So you just have to plan it appropriately.
All right. So I know this is kind of one of the more, I would say, like ickier strategies that we're talking about today, but they do work. So let's talk a little bit about like fast action discounts and when do you think it would be appropriate to use these, or do you even recommend using them?
I do. I think there are some that are solid. Like, I think there are some that I have utilized in client launches that actually like really drive demand. And it's typically like first five buyers get this. Maybe actually, now that I'm talking about it, I feel like that one is typically the one that I see drive the most demand is right at the beginning. And you're saying, hey, the first two people to like actually take action or five people or whatever, they're going to get this. I think the ones that stagger after the fact, I don't know, Jess, you tell me how you honor this in your launches. I always just roll everybody that's converted prior to those into those fast action launches or the bonuses because otherwise it's so like confusing when you have to like mute certain people and make sure they don't see these on social and things like that. Like ethically, you give everybody the bonus that is happening after they've
Purchase. Yeah,
converted.
yeah. I agree. I agree. And I have seen these fast action bonuses do really, really great. I had one client, she was a dog groomer. She taught other groomers how to dog groom online. And she would curate these special like boxes for the first, I think, and we did like first 25. And then as we grew, we started doing like first 50 people that would check out. And it was like a whole event because as we were going through ramp up of the launch, she would like show videos of herself putting things in the, like what she was curating for the boxes. She'd give them like shears. Like these were really awesome boxes. If you're a groomer, like shears are like a $400 product. And she had a partnership with a shear company. So they would gift her some. So we could put them into these boxes. And let me just tell you, I've never had a card open that like the notification for just like, bling, 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 like we had like 150 people sign up within the first 5 minutes. Like people had their like, must have had like their alarm on. It was almost like a Taylor Swift style launch.
That's
The
amazing.
adrenaline rush was like amazing. Like the dopamine hit was amazing. It was just like a great introduction to the launch for us, like a great like just kickoff to it. Like our energy was high because we weren't like sitting around like, is anybody gonna buy today? So I think we were just talking about like launch energetics and how that important that is. Like something like that where you can give yourself a quick win. It might cost you a little bit more money, but like that's gonna give you like better energy going into the launch and more confidence.
Totally. Yeah. You can use it one to like, because the pre planning of a launch, like, I think we've talked about this quite a bit in this launch series, but like the pre planning of a launch is exhausting. Like, you have so many different components. So, like, from the business owner side, like having something that you know, as soon as somebody, like, as soon as you open the car, is going to have people flooding through, like, why would you not? You know what I mean?
For sure. Okay, and then we want to talk about I love a live launch. I love a live launch. I love a launch
I do not.
offer. But I think only when it makes sense. Like if you have a standalone course that nobody needs to be in for any specific reason at any specific time, then I think it just like when you try to launch it for a limited time, it just feels like icky and like, why? Like, why would it be
Yeah.
available at Evergreen? But I think, a lot of my clients, they're dietitians, they're doing like programs or that things that have cohorts and they're walking them through. I think those like really, really make sense. So I think it's really important that like if you're going to limited time offer something that it feels special and not manipulative.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways to like curate why you should do this live launch and like community is one of them. Like some people thrive when they're going through something with other people. So like even if there's no like active components, if there's a community that you can like, hey, I have a question on this, hey, how's everybody doing kind of thing. That's one of those reasons to like hold it if you know that your clients are gonna get a better experience if they're going through it with other people, that's one reason. If you're manufacturing urgency and just being like, "Oh, opened, oh, closed," that's any value add to your audience, to your like clients or your, people going through these products, you have to look at it in the sense like, does it value, does it, wow, my brain just glitched. Does it add value to the user experience, the client experience, or is it just because somebody told you we need urgency, so we're going to close this and it's a limited time offer thing? So really making sure that like you're aligned with your values on that so that you can build excitement and not very manipulative FOMO and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here, I think it's really important just to think of your pricing strategy long term. It's not just about this launch, it's about building a sustainable revenue model, building on that customer lifetime value, because it's very much easier to sell to a customer you already have than to gain a new customer, and to make sure that like everything kind of feels you kind of do a gut check to make sure that everything feels like cohesive, you feel like the value you're getting, you're being fairly compensated for it, and that the price that the investment that people are getting, they feel like they're getting their money's worth. And like when you can get to that point, then everybody just feels happy and good and everything kind of just clicks.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one little bonus tip in here in the sense that like a lot of people tend to do market research about pricing before an offer, right? So they like before anybody's purchased, so to non-purchasers, and they say, "Hey, I'm launching this. It's at this price point. What do you think?" Some people are always going to have that hesitation of like, "I probably wouldn't pay that," or "I don't know." But you want to market research both post purchasers and free purchasers because the post purchasers, now that they've been inside, they can pretty much like communicate the like what they see value in, and that's going to influence how you market it, how you position it. And you can almost like you're always going to get those people that are going to be like, I would have paid $10,000 for this because it changed my business. Doesn't not mean you need to increase your price, but it just validates that like your pricing point was aligned. But definitely market research on both sides of the purchase so that you have a very clear idea of what's the value and how to position your price point in that sense. Like just because it's two different buyers or two different mindsets that are happening in that decision.
All right, so just a quick recap of what we covered today. You want to make sure that your price is aligned with your audience, your value, your capacity, no one else's. Don't fall for that stinky one-line advice. Do some real like calculations about how much this offer is costing you to put out and deliver, and then how much money you need to get, how much profit you want, and then what makes sense to the buyers. So there's a little bit of like math and homework and all of this kind of things that you have to do. But once you get it right, like you'll feel so much more confident in selling that offer at that price point. Always, always, always make sure you are building an ascension model. We want to have our upsells, our downsells, our order bumps where they make sense so that we can make sure that we are maximizing our launch efforts. If you are going to do tiered offers, make sure that they are really, really clear and not confusing, or you will give your buyers analysis paralysis. Make sure that you're using those fast action bonuses, super intentional, so you don't feel icky, and make sure that like your launch offers really are justified to be like limited time launch offers. So We want to know. Let us know on Instagram. Hit us up in the DMs or in TikTok or Instagram. What is one pricing experiment you want to try in your next launch? We want to hear from you.
So if you like this episode, share with your biz bestie, leave us a review. We love reviews. And then honestly, just tell us that you're a listener because those are our favorite DMs where you say, I love this episode. That makes our entire year. So drop that in our DMs. And Justin, what are we covering next week?
Next week, I just decided we're going to do launch energetics. We're going to talk about the energetics and the mindsets that you need heading into open cart week and how to stay resilient and strong. Because I think launch week, especially if it's like a launch you're only doing once or twice a year, can be one of the most stressful weeks of your entire year, but it doesn't have to be. It can be fun. It can be joyful. It can be a celebration. And I'm just coming off a launch that didn't start out as planned, but we were able to kind of shift our energetics and our mindset, and it is rolling along now. So I can't wait to talk about that next week.
Amazing. Well, until next week, we
are
are
rooting for you.
rooting for you.